Hello everyone, here we have a 2002 Ford Ranger. We have a kind of problem with this vehicle. The customer complains that there's no power on acceleration. We road tested the car, and during wide open throttle or hard acceleration, the vehicle just bugs off and doesn't actually respond. So there are no trouble codes on the vehicle, so one of the first things we got to do is we're going to perform a pressure test on the fuel injection system. We're going to start by the basics. So we're going to run a pressure test. So we have a few pressure gauge connected to the vehicle. The specifications for the car are from 60 to 65 psi, key on engine off, and key on engine running, 60 to 65 psi. So we're going to perform that pressure test, and afterwards I'll show you another type of test that you can do to check the performance of the pump. Okay, so we have our fuel pressure gauge connected. We're going to go there and key on engine off, see how much pressure we get. Let's cycle the ignition on. Get around 60 psi of pressure. It went to around 65, then it dropped to 60. What you're looking for here is when the fuel pump shuts off, you want the pressure to be held steady. Alright, this is key on engine off. What you're looking for on the pressure is you want the pressure to be held steady on the gauge. If the pressure starts to drop gradually, there could be a potential leak where on your injectors, on your fuel pressure regulator, on the fuel lines. If it's dropping gradually, you should hold the pressure. It should not drop no more than 10 psi within 20 minutes. There are times when the pressure might build up to 60 psi, and once the pump shuts off, the pressure drops immediately to zero. That indicates that your fuel pump check valve is not holding the pressure, and they have to replace the pump in that case. So this is key on engine off. It has held the pressure steady, so that indicates there are no steady leaks. And we're going to start a vehicle right now, and we're going to check at key on engine running. So the specifications say that key on engine running, you should have around 60 to 65 psi of pressure. And it seems that it's within specifications, pressure-wise. Okay, so we have the vehicle running, key on engine running, and the pressure shows within specifications. This has a return type fuel system, so that means we have a fuel pressure regulator that works off vacuum. Let's test the fuel pressure regulator before we continue further testing. What's going to happen, the fuel pressure regulators control around 10 psi of pressure. So if I unplug the fuel pressure regulator, if I unplug the vacuum from the regulator, the pressure should build up around 10 psi of pressure if the regulator is working properly. So we're going to come here. Here's your pressure, and here's the regulator. So I'm going to unplug the regulator and look at the pressure. I'm going to plug it back in. There's absolutely no change at all. It should have built at least 10 psi of pressure. So we have an issue with the fuel pressure regulator. But let's do another test on the pump. Okay, so after we ran a pressure test, we found out that the pump builds the right pressure, but the fuel pressure regulator is not working properly. So that's an issue that has to be taken care of. But I want to show you that on the pump, don't just rely on pressure, because you also have to look at volume. How much volume that the pump is capable of pumping. Because if you don't have the proper volume, you could have the right pressure, but incorrect volume, it could give you issues. So we're going to run a test. We have a setup here. We have 1 gallon container here that is connected to our fuel pressure gauge. So here, the gauge itself, as you press in the button, you turn on the pump for a full minute. You want to see at least 1 gallon of fuel if your pump is delivering the right amount of volume. And we'll run the test and we'll determine what's going on with the pump. Okay, so here we have our fuel pressure connected. We're going to be able to use this adapter to deliver the volume through this clear line to our container, and our power probe is connected to the fuel pump itself. So we're going to power up the pump for a full minute. So I'm going to power the pump right now. And you want to run this pump for at least 1 minute. After the minute, you should have at least 1 gallon of fuel on our container. If the pump is not delivering the proper amount of volume, then that could give you issues. And right now we're approximately 20 seconds after the pump has been run. I'm powering up the pump directly, so I'm bypassing the relay. I'm applying battery voltage directly to the pump. Your engine is off, and we're using the fuel pressure gauge as an adapter to deliver the fuel to our container. Approximately 40 seconds. All right, and that's our full minute. So let's look at how much volume that we had on our container. All right, so let's find out how much volume of fuel do we have. I'm throwing the light on the container from the back. We're gonna make a mark, approximately right here. They only gave us half a gallon. The gallon should be around this area. That should be a full gallon. So it gave us approximately half a gallon. We have the right pressure, but not enough volume. Okay, so we're gonna do another flow test. We did a test after our filter. Now we're gonna do a flow test before our filter. We could potentially have a clogged filter, so we're gonna do a flow test and prove it to see if it's clogged or not. So we're going to unplug the filter and check the pressure side line from the filter, and we'll run our test and see what we get after we finish our test. Okay, so we have our setup. We're gonna test fuel volume from the pump before our filter. So we're gonna power up our pump right now. Gonna set up our timer. We want to have evidence to see if the fuel filter is clogged or not. If it's clogged, then our volume should increase, but if it's not clogged, our volume should be the same, then we might have a defective pump. So before we condemn a bad pump, I want to get some evidence. You should always get some evidence when you're documenting or recommending a component to a customer. You want to make sure that the part is defective. So you need evidence. Don't guess, test. All right, that's a full minute. All right, so let's check our results after the pump. There it is. It has increased, but not quite enough. I'm still low on volume. So the filter is restricting at least a quarter of a gallon of fuel delivery. That could potentially be giving us a problem, because you want to be at a full gallon mark, and we're like at 3/4 without the filter. With the filter, half a gallon. Without, 3/4, and it should be around 1 full gallon within a minute.